Before we go on.
Hey,
Hey, witches! Hi, witches!
We are live
Welcome
for our Thursday night tarot talk. And we were just reflecting over music and people.
Tell the truth. We were talking about, I'm all enthralled with the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelsey thing, and she's not so much on board with it. So I was showing her shorts and trying to see how cute.
Inspire me to like it.
I'm trying to get her to see just how cute Travis Kelsey is when you look close up, because I agree from afar you can't really tell that he's a handsome guy. Let me tell you, I'm predicting right here and now, this relationship has legs, y'all. That's my prediction.
That's what she says. She says
it's got legs.
Things. I mean,
yeah, I think there's going to be, I think it's going to go.
Hey, Tracy.
I think it's going to go somewhere. So, and I'm so happy for them. Y'all know I love love. So
loves love. It's her new love addiction is to watch the blossoming of
I got
Travis,
the Love Jones.
Yeah, Travis and Taylor.
Yeah,
I guess
it puts a smile on my face,
well,
and then
that's a good thing.
And Jamie actually just converted me to a Swiftie.
Yeah.
So I was not a Swiftie before. I was like, her songs are kind of emo a lot, but
she didn't know the range of music that Taylor sings and lyrics.
And then we went to see Eras last Friday night.
The movie.
You guys, I highly recommend it. So anyway,
she found it inspiring, and I love that. I think that music can do wonders for us. And if you ever look back at your music choices at different stages in your life, it really speaks to the energy that you have around that time in your life. Whether you choose music that is pretty hardcore and you need to mash out to, or if you're more into the slow romantic stuff. Or I remember the Usher phase, early 20s for me. It's that's all about being in the club and dancing, just being young and fun. So there's just music can fit the eras of your life. And
absolutely,
when you find the things, it's it takes you back to that or enhances it. So music.
If we could play music right now, I would be playing music, but it probably wouldn't go well with our video. So we won't distract you with background music today.
All right. Well, cool little fun fact. I guess that's the best way to put it. Kat used to be really big in the scene of karaoke, really good, really
it's true.
Big. I mean, she was
true. I was the karaoke queen of Kansas City.
She really was.
Or at least that's how I saw myself.
No, everywhere we went, this was a thing. When I would visit from home or visit home from the Navy, that's what we would do. We would go out to bars. People knew her, and she would get up and belt these ballads. And I'm like, Mom, I just didn't know this about you. That's awesome. I grew up listening to her sing in the car, which is great. But I didn't know she just went out in town and started singing live in front of people.
Yeah, I was a karaoke queen of Kansas City. I was in a karaoke bar 5 nights a week for a long time. Yeah.
Just singing.
It was fun.
Hi, Carla. Just wanted to say hi. Well,
enough
what we've been doing the last 30 minutes. Yeah.
We'll move on to
spend our time together.
We'll move on to our lesson, which
not really a lesson, but a discussion.
A discussion.
It's on live.
And expansion on
the court cards.
Our Monday night topic this week. Week 7.
Week 7
was court cards.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that you can say about the court cards.
Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Kristen, Carla, Tracy, hello for everyone who's here. We appreciate you. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk some more about the court cards.
Just because things that we couldn't talk about.
They are complex.
Yeah. They're perplexing.
Yeah.
I think when we first get started, there's just not a lot of symbolic. They're not doing a lot of things. They're just not interacting with an environment or other people or things enough, I think. But
this is not a situation in your life that you're going to encounter.
Yeah.
Where in so many of the other cards in the minor arcana, the number cards,
Ace through 10.
People are doing things, they're celebrating, or they're
sort of an environment, These are really just focused on the people. They're big, they're up front, they're in the card.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things that I could talk more about that I think that you guys will find helpful is we're going to group them together again, all the pages, the knights, the kings, and the queens, and talk about them when you see them together. Because for me, when I look at the 4 cards like that together, I think it gives more insight to what it means to be a page, what it means to be a knight, a queen, a king. And having the overview of their position, of that archetype of where they fall, I feel like is more telling than the individual cards themselves. So if you know the element and what it stands for, earth, air, fire, water, but then their position, there's just those two things together, I feel like can really tell you a lot about the card.
And tell us what you mean by their position. Is this on the totem pole?
This is the totem. Yeah, the tarot totem that we introduced on Monday, where you've got the inexperienced to the experienced to the mastery level, which goes from page, inexperienced, the knight is experienced, and then mastery level is queen and king. And they're just the masculine and feminine of that.
And they're on the same level.
Yeah. So they're not, it doesn't go straight up like this where like queen is underneath king. It's not positional like that. It's more, they're equals and they represent the masculine and feminine side of the
wisdom,
element,
the wise,
the element that we're talking about.
Well, they're masters because they're the wisest. They've been through all the experiences. The difference in them is their approach to problems or their approach to guiding people. So the king tells you what to do, where the queen provides, she's more supportive,
guidance, nurturing,
more guiding and stuff, where the king's just like kick you in your butt, go get the job done. I don't want to talk about it. The queen wants to talk about it. Most of the queens. We will see when we look at the queens together. Have a couple of really stern looking queens.
All right. So we cannot run the other application, so we do have to just show the cards the way they are. No, go ahead and
we're going to put them all up at the same time.
I mean, yeah. Because this is what I would do if I could have that app up that shows all the cards. I would have a little slideshow or a little screen thing that shows it. But to see all of the, raise yours up just a little bit, to see all of the pages together and things that you should notice and then just make notes on or say what you think about them. The different colored skies. So they're all in different positions. So we have like the warmer sky, we have a gray sky, blue skies, of course, clouds with the air signs. What's their grounds look like? I mean, I have these two would be the feminine side. This is earth and water. And look at the cards down below, how these almost look like they line up together, so you can kind of see that there's similarity or things that flow within them as you start matching them up, mixing them up, looking at them. So if you put two, it also with this card, and then when we put these guys together, you've got the water that flows over there. So there's some symbology here that kind of shows us how these cards can relate to each other, or that they do all have similar qualities. They have, these are the inexperienced pages, but they have backing in something, right? Like they started their life somewhere. They're not at zero. They're just inexperienced in the world trying to head out into it. So with water in the background, there's emotions. With the wands, we've got that fire sign. There's not a lot of emotion there. It's
scorched earth.
Scorched earth. So just looking at their backgrounds, the way that they stand, even facing each other. I know that at one time we tried to see who was facing left and who was facing right. And what did we think that meant? Was left towards the logical brain and was right more towards that creative side. I mean, these are all things that you can get from laying the cards out and looking at them together. You just make your own assumptions about them. Tarot is meant to be interpreted. It doesn't have, you don't have to look for a book to confirm it. You can, but you'll start to see things within the cards that show you that there are symbols representing what the card is about. So that is the pages all together. I just love looking at them because then I feel like here's a group of 4 teenage boys and you could see how they differ, okay, so which one is the one that like has goodness in his heart and which one is like always causing fights, or we go back to the sort of archetypes of what do each of them do? What are they like? Answering those personality questions about them. So this is the way that I like to view them and sort of maybe looking at them as a friend group, seeing them all together and then being like, oh,
they're a social club.
Yeah. Which one's mischievous? Which one has all the good ideas? Is there one that maybe seems more like the parent of the group? Assign them whatever your friend group experience might be. Find that within these groupings, because I think it's really helpful to see who they are through the eyes of our own experiences. That's probably the best way that I've learned to do them, because I couldn't look at the little book, you guys. It didn't mean anything to me when I was trying to read the definitions. I'm like, that means nothing. That doesn't connect.
It's just a bunch of words.
It is, yeah.
So you have to find a way to tell your own story, if you will, and that becomes your intuitiveness of the card. And as you grow in reading tarot, that will change over time, as it should, because it will. You'll learn more, and you'll see them interact. When these pages interact with other cards, you'll get some insight there.
Yeah.
So they are. Yeah.
I love looking at them. I mean, now that we've gotten into this, it's like I could sit here and stare at them, but then you'd just be watching me look at cards. It's not that interesting. I did notice, like, with this guy and this guy. So these are of course the first two cards that we presented within the deck, because we feel like they sort of come first, or maybe they're easier to understand. And these are the only two pages, you guys, that actually have they have symbols of their signs on their clothing as well. So you can see fire and water. Water has water lilies on his clothes, and this page has the salamanders, which we told the story about the magical salamander emerging from fire. And then these guys are dressed more plainly. So even with that, you start to realize, do these guys carry more of their sign with them because they have the elements on them? Like, they know exactly who they are. They are dressed in their colors. They're dressed in their sign. Whereas these guys might be more not as fixed. You know, they're more into interpretation. Just little things like that. And there's no right or wrong for this. It's questions I ask myself as I look at them and try to analyze, what more could I learn about these cards? So I think we're going to go to the Knights. You take two.
You want, what is it? Swords, air and
wands.
Air and wands. Okay.
Yeah, so we're doing masculine, feminine right now.
Masculine, feminine.
Kat said, why do I got to be the guy?
Oh, look, our horses are facing each other. Check that out. They just happen that way.
All right, so here is one way that we organize the cards. I'm holding the two cards that would be the feminine side, because this is water and earth. Kat has fire and air, and so these are the masculine, and they are kind of facing off right now. So isn't that interesting, that the way that these cards form, and then the stance of them? These two are more in movement, of course, charging ahead, showing off with a big gallop. This guy, holding fast, he's earth. And then this one, just one leg raised, of like, I have some emotion going on here. You don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just like, hey, I'm a little different. And then they're coming at each other again with the different skies. So you've got blue skies and then one yellow sky. The way that they hold their items that represent the suit that they're a part of, like his being cut off. I always look at the things that are cut off in the picture too, because Pamela Coleman Smith could have drawn these in any sort of way and always shown a full sword. But I think that it tells something when things are cut off and you can't see all of it. So how much of the horse can we see on all of them? Can we see, like, this guy's no back feet? No back feet. We've got back feet. We've got back feet. So the cards at the end that show more of the stability and having all four corners, I think about it like a car always having four wheels that are aired up and not riding on a donut. When you can see all of the elements within the card, it gives you a greater picture. There's more stability in the card, rather than when they're more cut off. It's like, this might be a little chaotic. We're going to two wheel on your car instead, just one of the ways that I look at them. And then as we look at the backgrounds, do we see any things that flow through it? What's really interesting about the Knights is you have a lot of scorched earth or yellow earth in each card. So even though this is a water sign, you have more scorched earth here than you do in the other ones. And this guy has, it's weird because in the camera it looks really red, but a plowed field below. This is the plowed field for him. But you have these, the golden, valleys of scorched earth rather than having heart or emotion in it. So this makes me think that it's more about, it's in your head and not in your heart, your action and moving forward and just going with a plan rather than feeling something. And the only card that has the feeling waters, the deep waters, would be in that Cups card. What do you see that you would want to acknowledge?
Well, I always find the Knight of Swords really interesting because he's he's moving very fast,
Yeah.
as you can tell by, and he's going into the wind.
Yeah.
So
Look at the clouds rushing back.
I mean, and the tree is,
the trees are
he's
bent.
he's like he's going against the grain and going against the wind. So he's made his journey harder by, I mean, maybe that's the way that whatever it is that he's going toward, or perhaps he's got a foe. I don't know.
Well, it's like opposition when you're going against the grain. Right?
Yeah.
You're
He's going against the grain.
Mhm.
And, swords being the element of air and your mind, that may be something that is related to that, because our minds are complicated with our left and right brain. And so maybe that's symbolic of that whole against the wind thing, against the grain, against the wind.
Don't make me think of that song.
I know.
The other part of it is when we see red like this, red represents that passion and drive. So you can tell that whatever he is fighting for, he definitely believes in it, or his, the split second decision of like, I'm fighting for this. It's going to happen. Bringing in that red passion and action right there. Yeah, so those are the knights. I don't know that I ever set them up to where the masculine and feminine face each other.
I never noticed that before until we put them up like this.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't think.
So these are the kind of things that happen when you lay the cards in front of you and you start moving them around. You're like, oh my gosh, I know. Like I never noticed when you said that the water connects.
Oh, the water connects.
Yeah, the water like lines up on 3 of those cards, and like they were cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, like they're as she was drawing them, it was almost like the next scene, which is something that we talk about in the sequence of cards, but not usually when we have these suits together. Or these aren't the suits together; these are the positions together.
Yeah.
The totem positions. So these are the experienced knights that have purpose. They have experience. They want to go and do something.
They're also young and sort of impetuous. Yeah. So they're impulsive.
I feel impulsive. I was going to say, you used that word before, impetuous. And I still don't remember.
Impulsive. So I feel like they are impulsive because they're at that stage where they have enough knowledge to go out and get themselves into trouble. But they're also daring.
Yeah.
So they're also young enough to still be fearless, as we can see, and we can see the fearlessness in some of the cards.
So it's like enough knowledge to go out and do something, but not enough knowledge to possibly not get in trouble.
They also all have armor on.
Yeah. That's what I think is the drive for. They all have a purpose, like they're dressed for that purpose, being armored like that. They're ready for something. They're going out and getting something.
And each one of their helmets has something coming out of it. Yeah. So which is, I believe that meant, so when knights or when armored whomever, soldiers and stuff, when they had something that was an accomplishment, it was a recognition of some sort, was it not?
I don't know. I didn't look that up.
I'm thinking that it is. I'm thinking that it has some significance as to their accomplishments or their purpose.
Yeah.
Or, him and the cups.
Yeah.
You can see him. Although I would think that with his wings, he's got wings on his helmet,
which reminds me of Mercury, the messenger. So. Wait, did you say knights or pages were the messengers before? Because we talked about this and we're always wondering how it
sometimes fits. The pages are messengers, but sometimes the knights can be messengers.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
They also represent travel and movement. So as you can tell from
they're on horseback.
They're moving, they're going somewhere. So in a reading they would represent typically travel, going somewhere else. But it would also depend with what's going on with the other cards around them, because they're kind of, I used to do these card a day pulls, and when I would get the court cards, I'm like,
how am I supposed to think about that?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, by themselves, I just feel like they're sort of lacking. Like they need people, they need other cards around them to make them make sense. And I don't know if that's just me. Do you feel that same way too about the court cards?
Well, I guess how I would say I take the court cards is all 16 of them are some kind of reflection of me, whether it's something that I'm lacking or it's something that I'm actually going through. So when a court card gets pulled for me, I ask myself, is this something that I'm acknowledging and I'm using, or is this something that I'm running away from and I don't want to do, and I'm avoiding this characteristic, of being a nurturer or facing a problem, whatever the card I think carries with it. This one, I'm a peacemaker. I really don't like rushing into battles. It takes a lot to get me heated enough to want to fight for something. I have to be really wronged. I let a lot of stuff slide for a long time, which is why I'm closed off, because I know how accepting I am. I want to be friends with everybody. I want there to be peace. I want there to be happiness. So a card like this for me is saying you need to face a problem head on, because if you don't, it's just going to get worse. The longer you let this fester, the worse it's going to be for you. So I take it as a reflection of something I'm either doing and I have like a personality trait for me, or it's the opposite. It's like, you're not handling this and we're here to confront you. We're here to tell you, you need to do something.
Well, when I get the court cards, I'm like, who is that person? Like, I try to relate it to somebody in my
Oh yeah, because I always say it's like an external.
Yeah.
It's like somebody in your life.
Someone in your life.
Fine.
So
I don't have 16 people in my life, so that would be hard for me. I really take it as personal messages for myself. And when I read for other people, I usually say, like, here's something you or somebody close to you could be going through, or here's a situation that you're aware of. Because again, the court cards, I don't think they always mean other people. I do think that they can mean reflections of ourselves, whether we like that reflection or not.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So we're on to the queens, and I just love them. Did you do them in? Okay.
I did.
All right.
The queens.
So the queens, so like the knights, if we look at their facing directions, I've got the feminine cards over here of water and earth, and then Kat has swords and fire, and they're looking away from each other. So how about that, where the knights are rushing in towards each other when you split them, the queens are actually facing away from each other. They're not looking for problems. They're not rushing in to fight things. I guess, though, if we were to hold them this way, it would be that they are seeing each other, reflections of one another. Holding the cards on this is hard, but the way that we're holding them, the way that we chose to hold them, is just that the queens are set in their own direction, and they don't really need to have that opposition with each other. Yay, women not fighting women. That's more of what we want, right?
Yes.
But we noticed that the feminine signs are looking down at their symbols. So they're admiring or nurturing their element, their quality of water and earth. Whereas with cats, they're looking beyond theirs. Their elements are not the thing that they're necessarily focused on. The Queen of Swords, which is air, looking past her stuff, and the Queen of Wands is kind of ignoring hers altogether. And she even has duality with that sunflower in her hand. So they are fully secure in their elements, and they don't necessarily maybe need to pay attention to it because it's just fully ingrained in a part of them. Where the feminine side of this is they're nurturing their signs, always going back to it or using it for something or admiring it, tending and caring for it.
We also noticed how stern and masculine the queen of Jamie's like, I think she has an Adam's apple.
Well, okay. So she is a masculine card, but should be the more of the original drawing from Pamela Coleman Smith, but her face, if you look at her profile being very straight like this, she's drawn masculine, she's drawn with that heavy masculine side of her. And I think that's to reduce the element of when she makes decisions, they're more logical and rational than they are soft and feminine and nurturing. It's kind of like, hey, come here. What'd you do? You did that? All right. Now this is happening to you. Go on now. And then the next person, so she rules in that way. Whereas with the other queens, and I don't know, I'm not saying she has like a harder face, but it's something that I noticed with this card versus these softer looking feminine faces.
Well, she's frowning. She's her mouth is downturned. So that it is.
Yeah.
No, I mean literally look, her face, but she does look manly.
The Queen of Cups also looks like she could be frowning or just in deep concentration. So, I mean, I try not to take the frowns as anything, but all right, why would you have the fire? So the Queen of Wands, she has red lips. So she has an established feminine quality within her, but is surrounded by all of this heat. And you can see on either side of her throne, she's got the scorched earth and then like a mountain or something stable. We try to say that gray is more of the unknown. So when you have a gray background, you have the gray clouds, this is like the unknown or the universe adding something to it. So she could be calling from something else. She's looking in the direction of that rather than in the direction of her sign.
Well, she's beckoning here, isn't she, with her hand? She's beckoning someone.
Oh, this one definitely.
The
That's how I think of it. I think of her as like, come forth, let me figure your stuff out for you. I'll make your decisions, and then you can go on your way. That's kind of how I think of her. Is like, she's somebody that you have to face after you did something. It's like not
it's the principle.
Judgment a little bit, or like justice, where you're like, oh, I messed up.
You just got called to the principal's office.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so with the feminine sides of it, I also think that there's things that are more elaborate or detailed within the cards versus with the masculine queens.
There's many more accoutrements here, or
accoutrements.
Embellishments.
Embellishments.
There's so much going on in their cards, and where these are simple, they're more, men are they're like, I'm cool in jeans and a t-shirt. Yeah. Where women, we want to dress up and put on all our jewelry and do our hair.
It's not a hard drawn line, but when the thought is there, it's the logical versus the creative. So with creative people, you need more options. If you've ever met an artist and they have all the different art supplies and all the brushes and all the paints, or
she's speaking of herself. She has a basement full of art supplies.
I love it when you call me out. Yeah.
Paint.
She loves
paint of every color, flowers.
I wish.
Like just
basically any craft I wanted to create. I probably already have the stuff in my basement to do that with. And that's a security thing for me. I need that. So I know I can always I need to go create art, being a water sign. Like I just need to go have my time. And
it's so fun.
My husband's very supportive. He's like, when I'm in my element of doing that, he's like, all right, I'll leave you alone. I'll just go like cook something or, go watch football somewhere. So those are the queens. And that's really what we found with the queens that we thought was super interesting. And
so we only have one with a yellow background though.
Yeah. Well, with all of them. Yeah. It's all of the pinnacles.
Oh, all the pinnacles have the yellow.
So at the end of this, we could try to put them into their, all the pinnacles, all the swords together, so you guys can see it that way, because there's sort of a story there too. Kings are next.
Okay.
Do your kings.
Let's see. So I have the swords and what do I have?
Yeah, you got it right now. Those two. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, so what's happening with our kings?
Well, we look at body positions. All right, my two kings, which would have the more feminine aspect to them, they're sort of looking in the same direction, but the earth is looking down a little bit. He's kind of admiring his.
Well, look at my thrones here. They're the same.
High.
They're the same.
Right.
Yeah, they're high.
Yeah.
They're very prominent, even more so than our feminine.
Yeah, for sure.
Side.
She has the high back also. I think she's the only queen that has the high back. Did you give me all the queens? Yeah. Queen. Yeah. She is the only queen that has another high back. So when you're looking at just the thrones and what they can mean, and these two together, we were gonna do this as well. This king and queen are looking at each other. Their rocks that they're on, or their slab of concrete, is even the same. And you don't find that across kings and queens. They don't have the same thing going on usually, not the same background or base. But he has the orange scorched earth, where she has the bright yellow like everybody else in her suit. So super interesting.
So they both have little animals. So she's got the black cat and he's got the salamander.
Yes.
Another similarity.
There is a story behind the black cat, and I don't want to say it wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the black cat was gifted to her as a means of protection, but I can't remember why or from who or if it's from like the pagan history or if it's from more of like the Christian side of things. I cannot remember.
I have a
bring
vague
that to
recollection. I have a vague recollection
you've
of
heard
the
it.
story.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's
I
like
can't remember it.
I want to say the devil gave it to her.
Me too. I was gonna
I
say
was
that. I'm
like-
like, see, that
I
just
think she
sounds
got
wrong.
it from the devil, and it's protection.
Yeah, it's protection.
And I mean, when
The
I say the
black cat of
devil, I mean the
protection.
devil and
The devil card.
The devil card.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the card.
That's
Not
where I
like-
think there's a story behind
There's
that
a
black
story.
cat.
Dang it. We're gonna have to come on and tell the story now.
We're gonna have to tell the story of the black cat on the Queen of Cups.
Nope, wands.
Queen of Wands.
Fire.
Okay, fire.
All right. As we hold up our kings, so cat already with the masculine side, you can see how their thrones mirror each other. What I said before about when Pamela Coleman Smith put things into the frame and then cut them off, it's like they go beyond what we can see. This is reaching to heights that we're not aware of yet, in my eyes. Like the sword that you can't see the tip of it. It's like, what is going on with that? So there's still question there. Not everything is settled. So these two kings may have a lot of logic and reason behind them because they're the masculine aspect of the king, but we don't know all the truths behind it, so there can be deception within both of these. There can be ulterior motives within both of these. Egos, fire can create a lot of ego. Air can create a lot of ego. So that's just how I interpret them, you guys. This is how I make the pictures make sense in my head for the meaning of the cards. I think that when we do the feminine ones, they're really surrounded by their elements. Like, of course, the King of Pentacles is just fully enthralled, just like the Queen was. She's got so much going on with her as well, So these two, the thrones look similar with all the earthly
setting
things.
is very similar.
Yeah,
only
the
with
setting.
the Queen, you don't see the city in the background.
Yeah.
But it's almost like she's out in the garden of the castle.
Yeah. There's even like blue mountains behind both of them, or at least it looks, blue. It depends on what deck you have, but the blue mountains are behind them to show where they've come from or what they're in charge of or a part of. And then, with the King of Cups, this is supposed to be a dolphin because I've asked. It looks like a fish to me, but I do know that there is a fish called a dolphin, which is a mahi-mahi. So I don't know what it's supposed to be, but they say that this is a dolphin, and then you've got a ship over here. So you have these two things coming together. So you have the emotions of building your kingdom, of having your job, whatever it is, whatever this stability thing is. And then you have the creature side of your emotions where it's the free flowing, can't control it, is going to go through the water in any way that it can. And I always talk about that the king holds his cup off. Like you can't tell where the side to the throne is here, where he's got his scepter of ruling, the same side as that physical thing over here. So they kind of go together where there's not a lot of structure within his actual emotion side, but where he wants to direct it is to make those emotions turn into something that's realistic for him.
Well, and another thing about these two cards is those kings, the more feminine kings, they both have something in each hand. Where the logical kings are just holding one thing, and their other hand is at rest. So that's something I like. I just noticed that now. So these
every time we pick up the cards, it's
literally
like
every time you look at them, you find something else.
Yeah.
And I think it's another good reason to lay them out together, lay them out looking at them different ways in their own suit, with grouping them together like we're doing now, because you will see things and it'll be like, oh my God, I never noticed that.
That has been our key phrase since September 4th when we started this, and we had already looked at all the cards for months.
We'd been,
And then we started laying them out again, and we're like, oh my gosh, I never noticed that. Look at that. Did you see that? It's why we say like practice with the cards, because you just see more and more each time, I think.
Well, and I think it's one of the things that is so what's the right word for it? Where you want to explore them. So because you keep finding things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Where's Waldo thing, where you just keep, every time you look, although you're not looking for Waldo, but what you're seeing is all these little symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's nothing random in here. So I don't believe there's anything random. All of this was very intentional when they were drawn. And so if you just study them, I think you'll learn more. And as you read and as you read them, just studying them, just looking at them, I think is so interesting, but also starting to read them in readings for yourself or for other people. I see if you're just starting out, a good way to start out is to just read for yourself for a while until you get really comfortable with it.
You know, the one thing I didn't think about is the different crowns.
The crowns,
they have.
yeah.
With the crowns, one of the things that I learned while studying on this is, now, you know what? I had the thought for a second and it was like bloop and gone. There's a name for this
thing around
dress.
his neck.
Yeah, the thing that goes before the crown. And it relates back. It's what goes on top of the crown first, or on top of your head first before the crown. And there's people within the numbered part of the pip cards, the minor arcana, that have this piece but no crown on top of their head, and it's supposed to allude to the direction that they're headed or where they may be going.
Is it called a whipple? It might be called a whipple.
It could be something like that. That sounds very European. Because it does go back, like it's a word that even they use today for people within the church or within places where they have to wear these outfits and stuff going on top of them. And it was a part of their dress that meant that they were royalty. So you didn't even have to have your crown on, but if you were wearing this thing, they knew a crown belonged on your head, was basically the story. And now I think in Europe, it's more for like sheriffs and people in charge that have the law rather than just people within like the hierarchies. So that was an interesting thing because, you know, these cards were drawn in the early 1900s. Our world has dramatically changed in the way that we dress, present ourselves, what's appropriate, you know, women wearing pants and all. So it's interesting to go back and see the historical side of the dress that they chose to represent something. And all I can think about is the Two of Pentacles, you know, the guy with the huge pointy red hat. Like, we don't have.
Looks like one of those things you put on your finger to count
money.
Count money.
The finger condom. I think that's what they used to call.
Well, the other thing I read about and we're not talking about the numbered cards yet, but when they were drawn, they represented, like, I think the swords were merchants. So they did definitely represent people in certain positions in life. So there were merchants and there were serfs, you know, people that were subservient to the land was owned by someone else and they just worked the land to survive.
Yeah.
So it was a different time. So I read something about that. So that I love history, but I can't remember it. So can't remember what I read, but I know it's there. So if that interests you, you know, Google that. I'm sure you can find out about it, you know, like why these cards were drawn in the way that they were drawn, with all these people with these old fashioned looking clothes. And they didn't even have real shoes. Like there was no Zappos back then.
Zappos
in the shoe store. So they had like homemade shoes from leather and stuff, you know, to look at their shoes. They're not shoes like we would find today.
How about before we had right and left shoes? They were just shoes.
Oh my gosh.
You didn't even have a left and right. They were both made the same. Crazy.
They must have really bad feet back then because they had no support. So what are we looking at now?
Well, we're gonna put the suits together really quickly and just look at their backgrounds and similarities, because this is something we want you guys to do, just to study the cards a little bit further to see what similarities you see when they're in the same suit. So we just did more of their position. We did the pages that are inexperienced, the knights that are experienced, and then the kings and queens, which are the mastery of their suits. And when we put them all together, you can see that like all of the pentacles have that yellow background. Ask yourself what it means for you. You know, for me, the yellow background, that golden light, is representing the solar plexus chakra, right? So I just think of it as like the thing that really makes Earth wonderful and keeps us here. It's one of the lower chakras right before you hit the heart chakra, which is green. So I think that it just, for me, it connects me to my purpose on Earth, and this is an Earth sign, and that's how I remember it, like why it's this golden yellow background. So when I see it in other cards, it also makes me reference that, like makes me think of that. As far as other similarities, there's lots of greenery. It's definitely focused on Earth. You've got 3 of them have the blue mountains. So the page, who's the inexperienced one, may be leaving the kingdom, and these 2 are residing in the kingdom. Think of them about living all in the same place. maybe just, the same little town or the same county within a place.
We just talked about this.
Yeah.
Like, I think we were looking at next week's
Wands.
lesson. We were looking at
Yeah.
wands, and I was like, look at this. I think they all, like in Game of Thrones, how there was like Westeros and then the North. There was all these like places, right? And if anybody's a Game of Thrones fan, and when you went to these different places, it was a completely
The
different
scenery was
atmosphere,
different,
right?
right? Yeah.
Everything changed, and the people lived differently. They dressed differently.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel what's going on in these suits, because if you look at them in
Yeah.
order, you'll see they're like, okay, these people are all in the same area.
Yeah.
This is not random.
Right.
So anyway, check that out.
The only other thing that really stands out to me, of course, is because this is an earth sign. We've got red on him. His horse and him are dressed in red. She's in red, and he's got his red fancy thing. And red,
His
of course,
whipple.
his whipple.
We're gonna call it a whipple.
It's a whipple now.
Thank
If
you,
it's
Carla.
not-
We're naming it that
We're naming
unless we find out differently.
but we know that red means action and passion as a color. And so these people within the earth symbol, within the earth sign, they have action and passion to go for what they're trying to build, grow, mastery, whatever that is. So that's what I get from the two colors here. We're going to switch to another suit really quickly. Swords, or you want to do cups? Whatever I can get out, all of the first
It doesn't
ones out
matter.
first. Why do
Whichever.
I feel like I'm missing one? You have the knight?
I have the king and queen.
Oh, what do you have?
Wait, I have swords.
Swords? Okay, I'll pull out swords. King and queen.
King, queen.
We gotta
So
go in
we're
the same
going-
direction. King.
King, queen, knight.
I feel like musical chairs with the cards.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Oh, I have them wrong. She looks like the king. I had her wrong. So when we put all of the swords suit together for the a lot of words. Court cards, that's what I'm looking for. We can start to see the similarities in backgrounds or the non-similarities so that you can really understand this is the guy that rushes in and this is the guy who's preparing to rush in. And as we go in sequence of he hasn't quite learned, he's learned and has experience, and these two are mastering it. So they're not rushing in. They're sitting and waiting for things to come to them because they don't need to go out and achieve anymore. They've done that side of it.
We also see
birds.
birds in all of their
All of them,
backgrounds, and
yeah.
I don't think we see birds in
Birds,
anybody
birds.
else's. And
The
anyone
bird,
else's,
bird.
yeah, birds and clouds.
Of course, clouds, because it's air.
Because it's
sign,
air.
right, right.
Yeah.
And then if we look at their ground, all of their grounds are kind of splotchy. You can't really tell what they're on or what they're doing besides maybe this guy. He's got this wave. It reminds me of a golf course a little bit where you've got like the sand pits and then grass and sand pits. If you've ever been at one that sort of looks out over the water. I went to one in Guam, no big deal. It just was really odd to see this like very odd landscaping on an island with
They all have the
grass.
same tree. So I'm telling you,
Yeah.
they're in a region. They're in
Yeah.
they're in the region of wands or swords rather.
Sword land, wand land,
Wand-
pentacle land. And we'll have to create names for
They're
them.
in
but
Airtown.
Put it in Airtown. And again, not dressed in his suit. And then you've got him dressed in his suit. She's got butterflies, clouds on her cloak. He's dressed in the color. His throne shows it. So you're looking at the mastery level or the more experience with the element that they're working through too. Okay. Then we've got, I'm shutting down the things so that we don't get them confused. All right. King, queen, your knights, and oh no, how am I missing one? Oh, there he is. Page. Okay. Same setup.
So I really see a color theme in
Oh
these
yeah.
cards.
It's like all the same colors.
Wow, yeah,
Well,
lots of orange and
three pyramids, three pyramid peaks, no pyramids over here. So you've got just that as a identifier. And again, ask yourself, what does it mean to you to have the three pyramids? Does this speak to the three pyramids in Giza that's like the Great Pyramids, or where do you think that energy comes from? What do you associate it with? Does it have a meaning for you?
so does the king, what's on his throne? Is it lions and salamanders?
Yeah,
So he's got lions and salamanders. The knight or the page has salamanders.
Mm-hmm.
The knight has salamanders and the queen has lions.
Lions and sunflowers. Yeah. So no
So-
salamanders here.
Mm.
So just again, we're just observing and then asking ourselves, what does it mean to us? How does that make her different? If the three others have those salamanders, which is a mythical creature that ran out of fire, What does it mean that she doesn't have that, but she has the black cat, which is, nowhere else. So there is something that makes her distinct.
She also has the same sunflower from the
sun,
the
child holding
the child holding the sunflower, and the sunflowers on the wall.
Yeah.
That's one with sunflowers on the wall too. She's got the same sunflower.
Yeah.
So there's some connection there, I feel like.
Yeah. When the sun would be that masculine element, right? So you've got, again, she would be in the masculine signs, but it's all reading into what do you want to make of it? What do you want to tell yourself about that card? If you know somebody that's like that, if you know that there's parts of yourself that are like that. All right, we're going to switch to the last grouping. And
this is, you guys, this is our sign. So
Lastly,
we're both water signs. So
the water signs come out. So the king and queen,
and again, we see a color scheme.
Definitely. The king and queen here look like they possibly could be in the same waters. His water has yellow in it where hers doesn't. He's floating off away from land. She has land in hers. You've got the elements of the page and the knight that have water in theirs, but also that yellow background. So he's on a yellow stage. He looks like he's in the desert, but has a river flowing in front of him that he's about to cross. So, what does it mean for you?
What is that back there? What's that?
The cliff?
Is it a cliff? Is that what it is?
I just think of that as land and cliff.
I was just looking at his.
This is a cliff.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Part of the land, possibly her land. I love all of her little pebbles.
Mm-hmm.
When we visited the beaches in Oregon, all of the washed up pebbles that look like gems, they're so gorgeous up there. It was just beautiful. That's what it reminds me of. And I have them still because they look like crystals that were polished by the ocean and washed up. And we went and picked through and tried to find different colors and gorgeous. Okay, enough about me. So when we look at these, the other thing is where they're facing. So the king and queen are facing the same direction, although she's not looking at him. But you have the knight and page looking in the same direction, but the page is not really looking at the knight. So there's also this theme of, are we connected to here's our inexperienced self, our experienced self looks back at what have we done? Here's our feminine quality of water, and our masculine side is looking to the feminine to get advice, to look back and go, how could I be better? What could I change? Just something small to think about when you lay the cards out and see what they're doing together.
We got the right word. Family. Tracy, our Google assistant, she said it's wimple. It's a wimple. Wimple. I don't even know what that is. Well, it's that thing around your head and neck.
It's the head thing. It's the headpiece.
It's the head
dress.
There it is. It's covering the hair.
If you didn't know, now you know. A wimple.
Wimple.
A wimple. I'm still trying to process that because I'm like, how did these people come up with that word? I don't know. It's too funny.
Oh,
you
Tracy,
didn't have to Google
You didn't have
one?
to Google it? Oh, my
Girl.
goodness. Don't be showing off.
Yeah, listen, when are we attending your tarot class?
Yeah, exactly.
Those were the court cards all together, and just going through some things that we kind of couldn't get through on Monday because it's long. I don't if anybody saw the video from Monday was an hour and 12 minutes.
We are so entertaining. I watched the whole thing. I usually don't do that.
She's high-fiving us right now.
But today I watched the whole thing and was like, oh my God, we're really entertaining and information. And it was good. I was interested in it. I wasn't critiquing it or anything. I was actually listening to what we said. I was like, it was interesting.
We wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, we wrote it. I'm like, wow, that came out really well. So I don't usually ever watch our videos
full all the way through.
I might peek at it,
watch them, but
yeah.
Not usually a whole thing through. So
so that's
yeah.
This was part 2 of court cards.
I know, because court cards are big. We would love it if you guys
are huge.
If you have questions, you can definitely comment on this video. We always rewatch stuff. If you want to teach us something like Tracy did and Carla did, please add to this. We're all about growing in knowledge, and Kat and I do not ever claim to know everything. We look stuff up. constantly. Like for this course, we went out and bought at least 10 books, like, and read websites.
I didn't tell you, but I have 4 books coming that I ordered from, and they're all tarot books. So I ordered 4 books from a Libris, a used book. Yeah, it's like you can't, I have this thirst for knowledge for these cards, and some of the books leave me wanting more information. And I'm just like, that's not very good description. I don't really get that. I'm not really connecting with what the author of the book the way the author of the book has interpreted it, which just tells you that for every single person that is pulling out tarot cards and reading them, there's a different interpretation, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's good.
It is good, because you're going to see something different than I see, that Jamie sees, that Tracy sees, or Carla, or whoever.
Well, and to bring this back to understanding why it's good in a reading, because I've had people who've had bad readings with other people before, and I understand it. When you're new and you don't know what to say, or you're not interpret, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We all got to start somewhere. But when I interpret a card, I know that with my good friends who have been reading tarot a long time also, they interpret it a different way. Both of us feel like we got a good message from it, even though we do it for each other. It's like, oh, wow, I've never thought about it like that. Like, oh, that makes sense for me. So I really do believe that, your spirit guides, the universe, God, whoever you believe in, puts us in front of people who interpret the cards a certain way, because that's the message you need. That's the message I need, to go to somebody who says it in a way that truly connects with me. That's why we're all different. I mean, you should be getting different readings every time you get a card. Something new should come up with that, or something, you should feel something different about it, because that's what growth looks like, Yeah, I just want to make sure we point that out, because as far as there being a right tarot thing, it's intuitive interpretation. And remember that when they made this deck, when they made the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, there was no book that went with it. They literally just made cards and said, here, use them to interpret messages for people. So everything after that has really just been about what people see, symbols that they connect to, research that they've done, looking up historical things, and then finding their own reasons. And once you create your own language with your tarot cards, whichever deck you use, that's when you can read for somebody confidently and be like, here is what's coming through. And when we believe in those messages, that we know that's going to happen when we sit down in front of somebody, it just does then. You don't have to worry.
I think there's a part of it that is you're getting messages from the universe. So things are coming out of your mouth that
it's like a download.
Downloads where
absolutely.
You're like, why did I say that?
Yes.
I don't have anything to back that up.
Definitely.
But it's like, it's more like a mess. It's more like something that you have to say. That's coming from spirit or the universe, your guides, whomever. And
because this is not about our egos. This is not about wanting to be right while we read for people. I love getting the confirmation when people know what it means when I say it. They're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that feels great. I'm like, but I don't feel like I did that. I wasn't like, I researched them, or I looked at their clothes, or I looked at something on there, like, I can read you like a book now. No, that's not what tarot is. It's not learning to be right when you read for people. It's giving them a message that comes through that maybe doesn't hit for like a week with them. You've probably all seen the shows and stuff that say, oh, if this doesn't make sense for you now, like, hold on to it, wait a week or two, something might hit with you. And definitely always has for me. So
well, I know for me, it's like, I always need, the universe always needs like a few days at least for me to connect with whatever and this is like horoscopes or whatever, anything. I'm like, I'm always a little bit behind. Whatever they say, like, if something's supposed to happen on a solar eclipse, it'll happen 3 days before or 3 days after for me. It's just
our timing.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that. Like, today, this is supposed to happen. It's Friday the 13th, and it should be really lucky. And then 2 days later, I'll get that winning lottery ticket, but not on the 13th.
Yeah. It's funny how it almost is like in preparation. It's like, hey, this is about to happen, and we think it's on this day. But really what happens is on that day, it sets in motion for everything that happens 3 days later. Yeah. That's what I think anyways. Yeah.
Well, we have to realize, I think, that the energy around it, which everything is energy. So that's what this is all about, right? Yeah. And that energy is flowing. And so, when it flows and it flows to you in the right way or whatever, I don't know if it's the right way, if that's the right word,
the right way for you,
if that's the right way to explain it, the right way. But when it flows to you where it connects with you and you're like, oh, yeah.
It hits home. Hits
Yeah.
hard. Yeah. Well,
All right,
thank you for another
so-
wonderful night of tarot again. Tarot.
We're
the
really
court
loving
cards.
teaching this class. We are, like Jamie said,
Yeah.
we've acquired so many books, and we've had such a fun time developing these lessons, and we really hope that you guys are getting a lot out of it. And
Yes.
always, as always, if you have questions, if there's something that you want us to talk about
Yes.
in particular,
Yes.
we would love to hear from you. And
Please.
because we will definitely we'll definitely do that. We'll be doing these lives every week through the tarot course, and then I think we'll
Afterwards,
make a
yeah.
schedule after that, but I think we're going to go to lives after that, so there'll be lots of time for you too. If a question comes up, 7greensisters@gmail.com, or hit us up on any one of our social media sites. We're on Facebook, Instagram.
I made that face only because I don't check them that
YouTube.
often.
Well, since you're on YouTube,
YouTube.
just hit us up on
Yeah.
YouTube, and we always look
Be
at the
easiest,
comments,
always.
and we'll respond
Yes.
to you. So thank you very much for being with
Mhm.
us tonight. We really appreciate you. We hope you got a lot out of it, and we'll see you next time.
See you on Monday or on Thursday. But
And
either
Monday, what are
way,
we doing?
Monday, we are starting the 8 through 10 of Wands, and we're going to talk about the symbology of them. We're not going to do the same stuff that you get in books. That was a big thing for us. We're going to use things in a different way. So if you've ever tried to read a book and memorize the cards, that's not what we're doing. We're presenting the information in a different way that should make it easier for you to out of the box. What would you say that?
It's out of the box.
Immediately be able to read the cards and be like, oh, I can connect with this now. So we're going to bring you and the cards together for connection and make it more memorable rather than memorizing words.
We're not into
All right.
memorizing.
Words,
All
especially.
right. Bye, you guys.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.